News of various acts of violence has dominated the media in Nigeria. Sad tales of wives killing their husbands and vice versa is a constant reminder that violence knows no gender and should be stopped before it stops you. I am Emmanuel Okeke and you are watching NAPTIP on the Move. Thank you for joining us. On this episode, we will discover the role and the efforts of NAPTIP in curbing instances of domestic violence. We will also share the challenges and shed light on things we must do to avoid domestic violence. It promises to be enlightening. Stay with NAPTIP on the Move.
Domestic violence, as the name implies, refers to the type of violence that occurs within the confines of a home, which should ordinarily be a safe haven. It can be an act of violence between a man and his wife, a parent and their children, or meted out on a help. Although the concept of violence is largely understood, there are factors that constitute an act of violence.
Domestic violence usually occurs when a person causes harm to another, and the harm can take the form of physical, psychological, emotional, even spiritual, in the sense that, for example, where a couple live together and the husband suddenly says, stop going to church, you understand what I mean, or don't go to this particular church, and the woman has been going there for since she was born. That's the only church she knows, that's the only way she knows how to worship, so sometimes it can also be spiritual.
These days, domestic violence cover other acts, not just the physical act of aggression. You talk about psychological violence, you talk about economic violence, you talk about sexual violence. They come in different dimensions, and they could even be worse than the physical violence. Even isolation, isolating family members, friends, or whatever from their friends or family members too. It comes or falls in under domestic violence. Now, economic violence too. Some people will make sure, just to get that control and dominance and authority over their wife or over their husband, make sure that the wife doesn't have any sustainable means of taking care of herself or getting a job. So these are some of the other aspects of violence that the laws are beginning to take cognizance of and beginning to be defined as offenses under our penal codes.
There is usually no act of violence without a root cause.
Domestic violence sometimes, most of the time, is caused by lack of trust, on the part of the man or the woman, infidelity. Sometimes you find cases of the men actually even sleeping with the house helps or the wife's sisters or relations. So these are mainly the factors that usually cause domestic violence in the house. Sometimes maybe when the man cannot perform his duty in terms of providing for the house, where the wife refuses conjugal rights of the man. Another reason why some violence takes place, amongst spouses is because of bottling things up. Unfortunately in Nigeria we don't have counseling culture. And unfortunately, again, those chairmen that attend weddings always give a very, very bad advice to the couple. If you go to weddings, you hear them say things like, don't share your problem with a third party. That is a very, very bad and wrong advice to give anybody. What they should say is, share your problems with a trusted and reliable and responsible third party. Because if you don't share your problems and you bottle them up, you know what would happen? You have the women chopping off the private parts of their husbands when they are asleep, and that is what is going on now. These are cases where the women are angry, cases where the men are angry, and they have so much bottled up because they've been advised not to share their problems with anyone. But the reality is that there are some problems that cannot be solved between the husband and wife. And when there are problems like that, or you've tried to settle these problems and it's not working, what do? You must go to a third party to sort this problem out. Otherwise, it's either the woman will kill the man or the man will kill the woman.
To tackle the menace of domestic violence, the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons has been empowered by the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act.
NAPTIP, has the VAP Act domiciled with us. So the role of NAPTIP is to implement the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, which is exactly what we are doing. We've rescued a number of victims from their abusive husbands or wives, as the case may be. We've rescued a lot of children from abuse of adults who are their parents, some are not their parents. We've actually got about 3 convictions, on this particular act. Under the VAP Act, we have offenses like rape, inflicting bodily injuries, the female genital mutilation, which is a major problem. These are very harmful cultural practices that are still going on as we speak. Then we have cases like incest, where fathers are sleeping with their daughters, and I don't believe it's a recent trend. It's been going on like forever. Most Nigerians don't report cases like that, cases of incest. It will interest you to know that even mothers know that their husbands are sleeping with their daughters. And they even tell the daughters not to mention it to anyone. They don't seek counseling for the girls. They don't take the girls away from harm's way. They still keep them in the house with the same fathers because they want to save their marriages. Some mothers are very selfish when it comes to cases like this, when they have sick husbands who sleep with their children. So we have cases like that. We have cases of spousal battery. Some men just think that their wives are there to be beaten up. They have no regards or respect whatsoever for their wives, and vice versa. We also have stalking, where maybe a man leaves a woman or a woman leaves a man, and they start stalking them and won't let them breathe, instead of moving on with their lives, indecent exposure and, things like that, various offenses like that. It's very wide.
A special unit initiated by the current Director General, Dame Julie Okadoli, ensures effective response to issues of domestic violence.
The NAPTIP Rapid Response Squad, NRRS, was basically established to see that there's very quick intervention. That's why it's called Rapid Response, to general cases of trafficking and also issues of domestic violence, which even from the papers, from the media, print and electronic, you will notice is like on the increase now. So we play a very vital role in investigating such cases and making sure that it's put to the barest minimum.
Cultural and societal expectations and limitations often inhibit effective handling of domestic violence cases.
One, you have to know that there's an incident of domestic violence before you can respond. If you don't know, then there's no way you will even know that such a thing exists. At times, probably because of either cultural or societal values, in quotes, depending on where somebody is coming from or orientation, they don't really want to open up. Probably when I was a kid, my parents got divorced. My senior sister is separated from her husband, and I swore that my own marriage will remain intact. Or even other people too that are going through such domestic violence. Oh, why do you want to make it a case? Are you the only one that is being beaten by the husband? Why would your own now be like in the public domain? So there are so many issues, even the parents too.
The recent news of husband battery and murder is a pointer that women are not the only victims of violence.
The Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act is set against persons, not against men. That means everybody is covered, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whether you're a child, whether you're a girl or boy, everybody is covered. We've read in the papers, we've seen on national television incidents where men were murdered by their wives. It's domestic violence. It's just that domestic violence has different end results. There are some that end up in murder, somebody being killed. But it started as a violence and then led to somebody being killed. Because we men most times feel this traditional African society, a man should be in charge. So why should I be complaining to somebody that I can't handle my wife, or my wife is physically abusing me? So women out there too should equally know that they could equally be arrested and charged to court if there's a domestic violence from them to their men, either in terms of physical assault or sexual assault or economic violence or isolation. So it covers everybody, not just protecting women, it protects everybody.
Despite challenges with acquiring information, NAPTIP provides shelter services and counseling.
When you come to counseling and rehabilitation, what we do is once the victim is rescued and is taken to our shelter, then we start rehabilitation. And that rehabilitation, you have to go through giving the person accommodation, ensuring that the person has food to eat, taken to the hospital, because most times domestic violence ends up with, if it's physical wound, emotional wounds, psychological wound, then the person goes through counseling. If this victim needs to go back to school, if this victim we need to reintegrate, we are now looking at, are we reintegrating this victim to the family? If we find out that it's not safe for this victim to go back to the family, then we look for alternative care. If the person maybe needs to learn a trade, we also provide that for the person. So as we are providing the skills, training the victim, then we're looking at empowering the victim, and we're looking at reintegrating the victim into the society. And after that, we now do what we call follow-up to make sure this person is adjusting very well in the society.
Couples are enjoined to shun domestic violence.
My advice to parents, especially those in abusive relationships, please, whatever you are doing, there's this saying that children learn more of what their parents do than what they say. Your kids are watching, your children are watching. I believe you don't want your children to be abusers in future or as adults, or violent as adults. So whatever you are doing, please find a way, communicate with each other, especially the couples. Communicate with each other and deal with your issues without involving the children. And please, violence does not pay. So come together as couples, talk about it, because I believe when you communicate, you will be able to solve a lot of problems. Listen to each other, that's the most important. But remember, whatever you are doing, your children are watching and it will affect their future. So let's be very, very conscious of what we are doing as parents.
Currently, the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act is only fully implemented in the Federal Capital Territory. Other states are encouraged to safeguard their indigents.
Honestly, I'll appeal to all the governors to domesticate this VAP Act. It's a very important piece of legislation, and it will really help to protect men, women, and children. It's all inclusive. because it's very wide. The offenses are very wide, and it will protect all of these people because the offenses are clearly spelled out, the punishment is clearly spelled out, so it will be easy for the law enforcement agencies to handle it appropriately. It's very important for all the states to domesticate the VAP Act. So far, I think there are just 3 states that have domesticated the VAP Act, so we have a very long way to go.
We all have a part to play in the fight against domestic violence.
Most Nigerians don't want to be seen as probably delving into other people's businesses or, oh, he's my neighbor, I don't want him to feel I was the one that reported the matter. What if they make up tomorrow and then I'll be the subject of gossip? But the truth is that you owe it as a duty to report to somebody. Then the churches too, our various schools, our various organizations, even women organizations, even for the men too, should find out time once in a while to make it a subject of discussion so that those that could not open up in public could as well, within those small cluster of people, begin to share experiences. Even if it didn't happen to you directly, it could be somebody that is close to you and the person will still get help instead of keeping quiet, and so many people have even been killed in the process.
To the victims of domestic violence, it's very important that you do not put yourself in harm's way. If you have an abusive partner or spouse, take measures to prevent any form of harm or injury from befalling you. If it means reporting to NAPTIP, you need to report to NAPTIP so that we can quickly take control of the situation, because we don't want to have more cases of women cutting off the genitals of the men or men killing their wives. We don't want to have that happen. So you need to report cases of violence to NAPTIP and we'll take it from there.
A problem shared is a problem half solved. Share your problems with a trusted confidant or call NAPTIP today for counseling.
Human trafficking, popularly known as modern-day slavery, is very much with us, even in this 21st century. It is a crime against God and humanity. You may be thinking, this message is not for me. Think again, because if you are paying your employee through an agent, you are a trafficker. If you employ a child under 12 years as a domestic worker, you are a trafficker. If you abduct a person against their will, keep and exploit them for monetary gains, you are a trafficker. If you promise international jobs with the intention to exploit the victim sexually and for cheap labor, you are a trafficker. If you buy and sell human organs, you are a trafficker. There are so many components of trafficking with devastating effects on the victims. This victim may be your daughter, son, brother, sister, mother, or father. Let us be our brother's keeper. Join hands with NAPTIP to stop human trafficking now.
Report cases of human trafficking to these NAPTIP hotlines: 0703 00 00 203, 080 02 255 627847. NAPTIP, empowered to protect you.
Please, please, stop bottling your frustrations. Talk to someone you can trust today. You can even call NAPTIP for counseling. This is an advice you must not ignore. Don't suffer and die in silence. NAPTIP Events is next. Keep watching. The Director General of NAPTIP, Dame Judy Okadonli, was at the commissioning of the new office complex of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, located at Jabi, Abuja. Many dignitaries were in attendance, including the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, Speaker of the House of Representatives, His Excellency Right Honorable Yakubu Dogara, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Gida Mustafa, former President of South Africa, His Excellency Thabo Mbeki, Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Right Honorable Patricia Scotland, Honorable Ministers, Heads of Security Agencies, Royal Fathers, Captains of Industries, and other stakeholders. Welcoming all present, the Acting Chairman of EFCC, Ibrahim Magu, spoke on the structure of the complex in relation to the work of the agency.
The need for the EFCC to have a better office that will accommodate its teaming staff has become very compelling. In the course of our fight against corruption, the increasing forms of economic and financial crimes have necessitated the need to expand the scope of our operations. I can authoritatively say that this building will undoubtedly further enhance our work to rid Nigeria of corrupt practices.
The President, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, then reiterated his objective of fighting corruption.
This is another milestone in our determined and collective fight against corruption. What I see here is not only a structure of concrete and metal. I see in this office the resolve of Nigerians to fight corruption. So my objective of fighting corruption remains steadfast.
Some dignitaries present gave goodwill messages to commemorate the success in the fight against corruption. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission is one of the agencies working closely with NAPTEP in the fulfillment of its mandate. As part of our efforts to sensitize the rural communities, the Director General of NAPTEP, Dame Ginny Okadonli, attended the Bayelsa State Traditional Rulers' Wives Association Niger Delta Royal Queens Peace Building Summit of 2018. Delivering a lecture on human trafficking, the Director General of NAPTEP shed light on instances of human trafficking and baby factories and other trends such as orphanage trafficking within the Niger Delta region.
When you talk about human trafficking, everybody's thinking about Italy. Yes, in Italy, when you talk about human trafficking, the girls there are mainly from Edo States. But if you go to Ghana, Mali, Burkina Faso, almost all the girls are from Bayelsa, Rivers, and Imo States. And unfortunately, it is even our brothers that are selling our girls to these traffickers. They deceive them that they're going to get good jobs in the hotels, in the restaurants, in the salons, and when they get there, they use them for sexual exploitation. When our little girls make mistakes and they get pregnant, instead of you to help them until they have their babies and take the babies, you drive them out of the house. If you drive them away, there are people waiting to collect them because that baby in her hand is big money. So if you send out your children, you're only causing problems for them. You know, because you increase their vulnerability to human trafficking and other social problems. And human traffickers prey on such vulnerable young girls and mothers. Another form of trafficking is what we call orphanage trafficking. Find out from them, where are these children from? Some of them have gone to communities to bring these children. Their parents are alive and they will tell you they are orphans because they know it is big money. Everybody is going to orphanages to bring money and food and everything. At the end of the day, they share this food amongst themselves and they share the money among themselves.
Dame Ginny Okadonli then proffered some solutions and called for participation of women in politics.
We rely on you today to initiate peace and reconciliation between parents and their daughters and ensure that in all of this, the girl child is always protected. It has been established by the United Nations that women are most vulnerable to trafficking when they are uneducated and poor. Therefore, educating the young girls will go a long way in curbing the menace of human trafficking in our society. Increase literacy and political representation. Please join hands with NAPTEP to create awareness on the dangers of human trafficking in your communities. I expect all of you to go back to your various communities and create this awareness. Let everybody know what is going on and make sure that your children don't fall victim to this.
The convener of the summit, Her Royal Majesty Queen Dr. Josephine Dayton Spieth, commended the Director General of NAPTEP. Public enlightenment is a major strategy adopted by the agency to prevent instances of human trafficking, domestic violence, and child abuse.
1, 2, 3. Stop human trafficking.
For more enquiries and support, or to report cases of suspected human trafficking and child abuse, please call NAPTEP hotlines on 0703 0000 203 or 0800 2255-627847 or email info@naptip.gov.ng. Visit our website www.naptip.gov.ng. Follow us on our social media platforms at NAPTIP Nigeria and watch our videos on YouTube.
All forms of violence is bad, and it can graduate from a minor slap to a stab in the heart. So if you or anyone around you is going through domestic violence, please call NAPTIP now. We've come to the end of today's episode, but I must plead with you again to report cases of human trafficking, violence against persons, and child abuse to NAPTIP. A stitch in time, they say, saves 9. I am Emmanuel Okeke, and I must thank you for watching and to join us again next week. Goodbye.